Hello, my beautiful, radiant human beings. Beans, beans, all the beans. Happy to see you guys' faces. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight my screen so that I can share with you for this webinar. But if you'd like to go back to gallery view, you're totally welcome to. Those of you that have done webinars with me before, you know that I'm going to be screen sharing a presentation. So whatever makes it best for your learning style, please feel free to make yourself comfortable and get yourself resourced as needed. Hello. I'm so grateful to have you guys for this webinar. And this webinar is definitely a huge topic of conversation, I think, and it becomes more and more prevalent as I work with clients and students and people, friends, people I see in my life. I feel like this conversation about polarity has become such an essential one to have an understanding of for us to kind of function as human beings with each other and in a more thriving, loving life. So I'm really grateful that you guys are here, and I'm so grateful that we get to kind of run this down. I think pretty much everyone that's on at this point is within our community, so y'all kind of know my lingo. But if we've got a couple people that'll pop on, and then of course people watching the recording that are not. So just bear with me while I find the in between language for all of these conversations. So here you guys will see my screen. If you want to do side by side mode, that's really helpful, and then you can see all the beautiful faces here and interact. And for those of you that are new, you're so welcome to use the chat box as we go. In fact, I actually prefer it. That way you can kind of chime in, let me know if you have anything to add or you want to unmute yourself and join in, ask any questions, or just let me know what types of things you like iteration on, as well as just continuing to expand this conversation. So thank you guys again for being here. We've got masculine, feminine energy dynamics we're going to be discussing today, knowing that both exist in every single human, and we'll dive into that shortly. So first, introductions. Many of you know my name is Ashley Schubert, and I'm a holistic wellness coach. I'm a yoga therapist and instructor. I teach meditation. I teach breathwork. I also lead 200-hour teacher trainings, as well as a master NLP trainer. And I also do a lot of work and coaching in personal and professional and spiritual development. And my passion, of course, is just to support in helping people heal, helping people feel more connected to themselves in a way that uplifts the rest of the world. Because as we know, there's no work you can do on yourself without it ripple impacting the people that you love, your families, the workplace, everyone that you come in interaction with. So the more we work on ourselves, actually, the better the world gets. So it's not actually a selfish thing. It's actually a selfless thing when we show up for ourselves. So that's my mission, my vision, my purpose. That's why I show up. That's why we're integrating lots of webinars into programming so that we have more information more accessible to people outside of our community as well. So I'd love to start with grounding. And the reason why is because the state in which we show up in our nervous system is entirely affected by the state of being that we're in. So no matter what type of conversation you're ready to approach, whether it's a happy one or a difficult one or an uncomfortable one or exciting one, or you walk into a space, whatever you have underneath dormant, lingering, whatever debris is still there, impacts the experience that you have and the way that you can actually receive and intake information. So I don't know where you guys are at right now. I'm sure you're partially in your workday, partially here, but I would love for us to just pause and ground. So go ahead and find yourself hopefully in a comfortable seated position and close your eyes and let your body, your mind, and your soul all arrive into this one place right here, right now. Give yourself the gift of your own presence. Take a big breath in, hold it, and then feel your exhale as you breathe out. Again, big breath in. Just feel yourself softening as you exhale. And give yourself permission to just be receptive and open for the next 58 minutes or so of content and information, knowing that there will, from now till the end of this time we have together, be something that sticks. And the more open-minded you are to learning yourself, to observing the things that speak to you, the more tuned in and connected you can be to your growth. So give yourself permission to see beyond just the words of what's being said here into the experience of how you're feeling it. And then take a few more breaths on your own, just feeling the fabric, the consistency of the air, the texture inside your body, and anything else you notice through your nervous system. And then in your time, you can begin to find yourself back here, blinking your eyes open and just feeling yourself in our space together, maybe a little differently than when you first arrived. Thank you guys so much for that moment. I feel like that shifts everything, just a little more perception, a little more awareness. And hello, Sophia. I'm so glad you could make it, my love. Happy to see you here. Okay, so let's talk. How has this topic affected my life and relationship? Every single way possible. How is it not is actually probably a better conversation to have. I'm sure you can ask, like many of you that are on this call right now have known me for many years, and I'm sure you've seen from an external perspective my entire being shift so much. And it's been a very long progression of expansion, but it started really picking up in the last like 2, 3 years as my relationship, my partnership has been one of my biggest teachers of my life, really pushing me and prodding me into really uncomfortable places and directions and given me kind of a catalyst to grow. And so I'll start by saying my innate energy that I was born with, which we'll get into gender specifics, but I personally was born with deep, innate feminine dominant qualities. Like my natural way of being is femininity. However, after many years of challenges, trauma, hardship, moving through what life offers, we all have a different story of what that looked like. My development into protection became wounded masculine. And so, in my wounded masculinity, I've always leaned in the past towards protection, aggression, intensity, defensiveness, the opposite of assertion. So, not asserting myself, but like being a bulldozer, not wanting to be wrong, being in my ego. And that's not the definition of who I am, right? Like, I know I'm so much more, and I know that I've always been lovable and likable and deserving. However, the dominant energy that ran my sphere was masculinity. And so, in my introduction to romantic relationships when I was younger, that presented a lot. And I would attract men that were very flighty, that were not safe emotionally, and that were not driven or ambitious or assertive in a healthy way. They were not directive, they were not leaders. I usually would be the dominant one in the relationship. And while we'll talk about this shortly, but while that polarity actually was really good because I got to wear the man pants and I got to attract men that did not want that role, it definitely created a lot of issues because that energy was in direct conflict with who I naturally am. So most of my manifestations of the masculine energy ended up me feeling very resentful. So, like being angry because I didn't have a partner that would step up and do X, Y, Z of what I wanted, but not knowing or having the language to communicate that or the ability to even understand that myself, right? So it was always this, why can't that person just get their shit together? Why is this that way without accountability or understanding of my part in that situation? And of course, like that wasn't my fault. However, my understanding and healing through it has shifted the entirety of what I attract and how I show up in the world. Just in the chat, besides romantic relationship, how has this dynamic played out in other aspects of life, work, female friendship? Thank you for that question, Jules. It's super important. I would say also in feminine relationships, it was actually really hard for me to connect with women. I did naturally attract to having a lot of guy friends. Like guy friends were my jam. I felt most comfortable with guys, with men. I didn't feel that sense of intimidation or jealousy or envy, or like the things that I would have felt in the presence of other women, especially strong women. Didn't have a lot of women role models in my life. So naturally, like I said, I gravitated towards men. In the workplace, of course, I was top dog. Like I killed it. Like I always had the hardest work ethic, but my modalities, my methodologies were very, again, bulldozer like. Like I was the top salesperson at my last job and like always knew how to crush it and close deals. And I actually felt like a badass, like I was like, oh, I'm so cool because I can like handle all this shit and make all this money and da 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 da. But really, I didn't understand that underneath that was the opposite of what I naturally gravitated towards. So, fast forward to my relationship. I've been with my fiance for 8 years now. And I always tell you guys this, but the first 6 years were, for lack of better words, hell, very, very difficult. Granted, we had that deep underlying connection and love, but we definitely spent 6 years battling it out of like who was going to be in charge. And that energy constantly made me feel like I was with the wrong partner and didn't allow me the space to look at myself. And so both of us, not just myself, but both of us have actually done this deep, deep work over the last year and a half, 2 years in this specific conversation of balancing our polar energies. And we're getting married in September. And like, again, I have to be totally honest with you guys, like the entire relationship, even though we were getting married, I was doing it because of status quo. I was like, I need him to propose. We're at this certain age. I'm getting at an age where I have to get married and have kids. Like, this is the person I've been with for 6 years or 7 years. So, like, if we don't get engaged, like, what am I going to do? And it was so about what society wanted instead of me being like, oh, I'm with somebody that I actually want to marry because I deeply feel seen. I didn't have that for the first like general many years of our relationship. And now looking ahead towards our wedding in September, I can actually say that I feel like I genuinely have a partner that's my polar and we're in healthy energies. And it doesn't mean that we don't get out of whack or out of balance with those once in a while. In fact, we actually do. But understanding these energies gives us the tools and the access to rebalancing our energies together through co-regulation. Okay. And by the way, you guys, this entire presentation is not just based on couples. I have some really awesome pointers for those of you that are single that will help you work with these energies too. I love this quote. You guys have been raving about this quote lately so much because I was this chick that was like, where's all the woke ass dudes? But the narrative of where are all the awakened men is a great way to avoid doing the deep inner work of becoming a vibrational match for a man who truly embodies awakened masculinity. And so this series actually goes on. This guy does masculine feminine work. He's super smart and posts a lot of really valuable content if you guys are into this. It goes into talking about how that if a wounded feminine actually met an awakened man, it's scary. Like you'd be afraid of that. So instead, it's easier to kind of not look into that wounded femininity and instead say, like, where are all these woke people versus realizing that we're attracting the exact vibrational match as to where we are at. And that puts us responsible and accountable for the energy in which we put out and how we attract the right partner, if we will, or align with the current partner that we're with. So all I'm trying to say with this, and it's not like attract this woke ass person, it's more so take responsibility, right? Like two parties in a situation don't have to change for change to happen. Actually, just one does. But if one person changes, it automatically affects the entire scope of the relationship. So I want to point this out because I want to be really honoring and supportive of kind of a lot of shifts in how we look at gender now. And I'm totally on board with every single person expressing gender as they will. And when we talk about masculine, feminine energies, even though I will mention and have mentioned already man, woman, what I'm really getting at is masculine, feminine energies. And what I want to say is that when I shared with you guys that I presented as wounded masculine, like I should be able to move between masculine and feminine. We all should because we all have both of those sides within us. It's just which side are we using as protection or which side are we using in a destructive way versus a healthy way. So whether you present as male or female, or born as male or female, you can be dominant in one or the other. For example, so like, we have again, a lot of things going on with gender, with transitions and things like that. Like you will be dominant in one or the other. However, you have access to both. And just like polar energies are, we have like a plus and a negative. So our right brain is connected to the left side of our body. The left side, the lunar side, which is the more feminine side, the more creative side. Like when you say someone's right brained, it means that they're creative, they're flowy, they're not really on a schedule. They're kind of like go with the flow people and they're much more flexible. Whereas left brain people are correlated with the right side of the body, the solar, the more masculine energies. So that left brain person is a little bit more like rigid schedule. They have a timeline for things. Things are done in a certain way, systemic, mathematic, things like that. You all have access to both. And the fact that you have access to both means that you have access to another person that is the opposite. Because if I couldn't access healthy masculine, I wouldn't be able to connect with my partner. And my partner has to be able to access healthy feminine, or he would not be able to see me whatsoever. So we have access to both, is like the main purpose of this conversation here. So polarity attracts, we've got that here, is that again, whether it's same sex or mixed gender or same gender, mixed gender relationship, you have to have the polarity in order for it to work. So when Chad and I were having like a lot of issues in our relationship many years ago, I was always like, I just want someone that can be like an equal and a power partner and like will go after things and be super ambitious and da 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 da. And like I wanted all these things, but I didn't realize that if I got them, I would be totally repulsed. Right. And so Chad is actually like now stepped into his leadership and his all of his passion projects and all the things he wants to do as the masculine energy. But here I was in my masculine trying to like shove something together that wasn't working because I didn't know how to step back and surrender and allow him to step into that. So it was, for example, like two positives trying to push together or two negatives trying to push together. It actually repels, versus attraction will happen when one person leads and another person follows. And what I want to also include in that, because I know there's like a lot around our culture now of, feminism and all of that stuff, is that empowering someone to lead does not mean that you're giving your power away. And it also doesn't mean, for example, that women don't know how to do it on our own. It just means that we're actually allowing something to happen in a space of surrender, which is in divine orchestration with what the universe wants for feminine energy anyway. Like Mother Earth, when you hear Mother Earth, that phrase, because like Mother Earth doesn't ask permission to do something, she allows. Like she allows a tree to grow. She's not forcing the tree to grow. And it grows in its time as it wants, and it provides shade, right, for like other things in nature, because it's an allowing process, it's a surrender process. The need to control is actually more on the wounded feminine side. Okay, so we'll get into that too. Because, like, ladies, I know you can do it. And there's no doubt we can do it all. But do we want to do it all? No. Okay, close your eyes for a sec. Close your eyes for a second right now. And I want you to just imagine someone saying to you right now, I've got it. And just feel into, how does that feel when someone's like, hey, no, I've got it. I've got it. You don't have to get it. I've got it. And then we clear the screen, and then we come down to, I trust you. How does that feel? And someone says, I trust you. And you can just blink your eyes open. And if you want to share in the chat, or anyone want to unmute themselves, feel free to let me know. Just like, how did those two phrases feel? And what's the difference in the way that they felt? And again, feel free to unmute yourself. Totally fine.
Uncomfortable.
Which one?
Both. Oops, sorry.
You're good. Yeah, uncomfortable, both. Okay, so over here, Ash said, I got you, felt relieved, right? Same with Sylvie. Anyone else? Do we have someone else unmuted? Oh, it's Zavi here. You're still unmuted. I'm going to mute you, babe. Perfect. I trust you, felt good. Felt overwhelmed, safe. It's hard to accept that someone can help me. although I recognize that's my biggest work. I've got this, felt comforted and reassured. Notice me not trusting that they actually do got this. Okay, so this is like already all the dynamics of why we're learning this are playing out. So I've got it, right? The masculine is I've got it. The masculine is I'm a container. I've got hold of this. I'm going to take care of it. You don't have to worry. But yet, so often in our culture, and it goes on both sides, is that a lot of us have been presented, a lot of women have been presented with men that are in their wounded feminine. So they don't have the confidence to say, I've got it and actually mean it. So we don't feel safe. We feel like we need to control. Oh my God, no. Do you have it? Is it going to get done right? Like, are you sure? Are you going to be on time? Do I need to send you the address? Like, are you good? Like, we're not used to that, right? And so similarly to men, the masculine wants to receive, like the feminine is I trust you, meaning I'll allow you to lead, right? And even if you fuck up, I still trust you. And so the I trust you is the feminine's willingness to surrender. But so often we're like, I'm not okay if I let go, if I trust, is it going to be cool? And there's all of this energy that goes into it. And I want to remind you guys too that none of this is wrong. It's just like a lot of us are undereducated around these conversations. So we don't really know how to show up in a relationship or in the world. And we're constantly in protection mode. We're constantly in nervous system overdrive. We're constantly in type A personality of like, I have to do more. I'm not enough. Like, is it okay for me to trust someone? And then when you see us on, for example, dating apps, like we're literally window shopping for a human being. And no shame in the dating apps. Like I've met people that have met incredible human beings, but the idea of like in your brain, the neurological symptom of swiping means like there's always going to be something else that I could show up to. And what happens in relationship is build character through rupture. You build character through you saying I trust you and them not showing up to that. You build character through like them saying I've got it and them like letting something slip through the crack. But that's also okay because that's where we learn and grow together of like, this is what my partner needs to feel safe. This is what I need to feel safe. And it's not like safety means that we're running from freaking like buffalo and like hunting and gathering. Like safety now actually means psychological safety because that to us is much more prioritized in our modern society. So we have to remember that that's equally as important. So these qualities, let's talk about them. Irrational, desperate, needy, manipulative. And by the way, these, just a little context on these, desperate meaning like, oh my God, are you going to respond to me? Are you going to respond to me? Needy, same. Manipulative, I'm going to say one thing because I think that's going to invite the answer that I actually want. Insecure, meaning like, how does this look on me? Right? Inauthentic, meaning I'm going to be another version, a filtered version of myself as I present to the outside world. Chases love, obsesses. Victim, oh my God, why is this always happening to me? I can't believe this. Critical, like, oh, I can't, like, gossip, blah, 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 blah. Like, I can't believe they're doing this, they're doing that. People pleasing, like me. Projects emotion onto others, like you're angry based on someone else's action instead of taking responsibility. Lack of boundaries, unable to hold a boundary. Insecurely attached, fears loss, and seeks safety externally, meaning if something happens, you're not okay with you until that person or that thing makes you feel okay. If you guys had to guess, like, what is this describing? Yes. Wow, you guys are amazing. Wounded feminine, right? This is when someone who presents as feminine is in the space of hurt, right? Or maybe unresolved underlying trauma. Okay. By the way, even if you get to a space where you're most dominantly healthy feminine, healthy masculine, you will still find yourself in these qualities once in a while. So it's not about not feeling these qualities ever. It's about how quick can you use the information we're learning today to balance these energies to get yourself back into a healthy space, right? It's not wrong to be in these spaces. And it doesn't mean there's something wrong with you if you've done so much work on yourself, but you find yourself here sometimes. So yes, Wounded feminine. That's what these things are. Wounded feminine. Next, we've got, I think we can guess by process of elimination, aggressive, right? Meaning do what I tell you to do or else. Stuck in their mind or not present. Like, hey, are you here with me? Like, where are you? Cold and distant, meaning you can't quite feel connected. Competitive, I need to be better than them. Withdrawn or bullying, right? Like putting someone down. Struggles to communicate needs, meaning someone maybe doesn't have even an understanding of what they need, so they can't explain it. The need to be right. That was one that I loved running. I was obsessed with being right before I understood this energetic idea. Withdraws, runs from love, narcissistic, needs to fix, right? And so this, by the way, the wounded masculine needs to fix. Yes, you guys got it right. Is like, let's just say as a woman, if you come to your man with a problem and they're like, well, why don't you just try this? Well, what about this? Have you done this? Like that's wounded masculine because that's trying to fix the problem instead of holding a container or holding space for that. Afraid of failure, needs to fix, yeah, and ignores emotions, right? So maybe doesn't lean into what they're feeling. So we've got wounded masculine here, and these are, again, energetic qualities or ways that these characteristics will show up if someone is running that energy. And again, man or woman, there is no limit to this stuff. We all can experience all of these things. And I think stereotypes can really play a part in this too, where it's like some like big dude is like super insecure, but like has all of these aggressive tendencies or is really intense, or like a woman that's really meek but insecure and scared. Like those stereotypes can really play into this in the sense of what might repulse us. But so often when we observe all of this stuff with a deeper lens, you can see between the layers where it's not the typical person that would manifest this. Like we've all experienced all of these qualities, I'm sure, at some point. So let's see this. Intuitive, trusts self, loving, playful and expressive, fluid, heart-centered, surrenders, right? Like we'll let go of the reins. Like I don't need to do it. Someone else can do it. Connecting, births, manifests, and creates. By the way, birth, yes, that's a human being, but it's also could be like birthing projects, birthing beauty, art, music, things like that. Vulnerable, that was like the hardest one for me to ever understand that was incredibly important. Compassionate, sensual, and affectionate, vibrates with the energy of nature, connected to source, authentic, and grounded. So these are all, what are these? What do we think? Yeah, healthy feminine qualities. So, someone who normally or was born with the dominant feminine energy, like thrives in this, but you can't really thrive in this until you let your walls down and realize that you don't have to protect. Like healthy feminine has nothing to protect because healthy feminine is like divine and universal and omnipresent. So meaning like the healthy feminine doesn't need permission to be playful. And when I went through a lot of stuff in my relationship, I remember because I'm really close with Chad's coach. He's actually one of my co-leads for many of my retreats. And I remember calling him and being like, man, like, I just don't know what to do because he keeps getting upset about this. And like, how can I not let it affect me? And he's like, listen, do you like have fun, like be so excited about life, like go smell flowers, create, express, like go be a divine woman. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I need to be okay. And if he's not okay, I'm not okay. And if he's upset at me, it's like never going to be. And through the expression of me being like, okay, you're figuring some stuff out, and I'm just going to be like playful and excited. And when I bounce around the house like a freaking crazy person and you see that energy, I don't care if it like repulses you or makes you frustrated. I'm going to literally just be this like cute, fun, loving, happy person that I am because that's who I am naturally. I let myself, my light dim when I'm in my wounded masculine or even wounded feminine, where I'm like, oh my God, is it okay? Do you like me? Can you approve me? Like, that's so not what healthy femininity is. Healthy femininity is like, I'm going to freaking walk out of here topless and like radiate my light. You know what I mean? Like, it's like healthy feminine just like they just are. It's just like, this is who I am. I'm not waiting on permission. This is just who I am. Just be a flower. Okay, so process of elimination again. Here we are in the last quadrant of our studies today. Is creates safety, witnesses without judgment, holds space, right? That container. Present without a goal, meaning I'm not in it for something bigger, I'm just in it. Integrity and awareness. The integrity is a really big piece for this part, which, surprise, surprise, it's healthy masculine, of course. But like I could even ask all the ladies on this call, when you see a man that's in his integrity and in his word, meaning he makes a commitment and he shows up to that commitment, like how hot is that? You're like, fuck, right? Like, geez, you're a man of your word. You show up to what you say you're going to do. Like, damn, you're dependable and reliable. Like, take my clothes off. I'm in. Guides has committed to truth, right? So like honest, listens deeply, supportive and encouraging, meaning like they're not letting their triggers get in the way of their interaction with you. They're holding space. Faces fears, knows death. Humble and seeks mentorship. This is huge, meaning they're not like, I'm above it or I have everything figured out. Like they're genuinely showing up to life curious and willing to learn. Reflective, peaceful, and grounded. Observes beyond what is seen with the eyes and responds instead of reacting. So that's like emotional awareness. Like, guys on this call, by the way, like good on you for showing up to this. I'm really proud of you because you're going to be so freaking ahead of the game with this information. And emotional intelligence is your go-to. Seriously, like the more emotionally intelligent you can be, being aware of your emotions, getting familiar with them, understanding what they bring up for you, and being able to process that, not putting it on the feminine, is like the way that the feminine will show up hard for you because you're not expecting them to work out your shit. Like women don't want, for example, a man that's like needy and can't figure out their emotions on their own. Like we want you to be our rock. We want you to be reliable. And when your emotions are based on how we show up for you, it's really hard to rely on you. And I know that might sound harsh, but that's kind of why male relationships, which we'll talk about shortly, is so important for men because that's where y'all have like your process work, your time work, so that when you show up to the relationship, you're showing up with like a whole version of you. And that's not to say you can't be vulnerable because remember, you have access to healthy feminine qualities too. And we want that. But to be able to process it and explain it instead of reacting from a place of it is the way that you'll get closer with the feminine, more interconnected, more support. The feminine will be totally of service to you if you can navigate your emotions and then present something that makes sense and ask for your needs in that. So healthy masculine, we got that there. Here is all of them together. So you guys see the quadrant. The top two are healthy feminine, healthy masculine. Bottom two, wounded feminine, wounded masculine. This model, by the way, was created by Danae Logan. She's one of my mentors. She's an amazing therapist. She works with couples, and she is just so incredible at explaining and understanding just these qualities and how we balance them in interaction with each other. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit here about how to use them to balance another person's energy or balance your own energy. So again, remember I said this is we could talk in the context of relationships, but also with people that are single as well. This is helpful because you can do this for yourself. This is actually what I do for myself when my partner's not resourced, because I can't expect him to be a robotic human, right? Like I also have to show up for myself. And that's the difference between codependency and co-regulation, right? So I'm not relying on him to make me feel okay. I have the tools to do it, but I also like appreciate when he can, when I don't have the resources. So let's say you're in wounded feminine and you're going off like, and guys too, right? Maybe needy, manipulative, you want like approval. So you're seeking, you're clawing, you're maybe just like latching and wanting that information or that energy. The way that you balance wounded feminine is you move straight over into healthy masculine. So it's a diagonal jump and you move into all the qualities that you see in healthy masculine. So let's say you don't have a partner, you do this for yourself. I'm going to hold space for myself right now. What specifically is it that I'm needing from this relationship that I could fulfill for me? How do I have integrity in the way that I show up in this moment? Can I listen deeply to my own inner voice? How do I show up and just respond instead of react, right? So you move into that energy of healthy masculine for yourself. Or for example, if you are a woman holding space for a man that's in wounded feminine, you're going to show up in healthy masculine. You're going to make a container for them. Okay. Vice versa too. if you're a woman showing up in wounded feminine, guys, you would go to healthy masculine. If a woman feels like she's being needy, create a container, validate her, witness her, don't judge her for being needy. Reassure her, support her, be that rock. And then wounded masculine, right? So when I went into wounded masculine early in my relationship, aggressive, cold and distant, withdrawn, reactive, things like that, Chad would go into wounded feminine. I would bring that forward in him. So all of a sudden we had this like cross cancellation. So like, for example, you're going to bring out the opposite energy in your partner based on what you're in. So if I'm in wounded masculine, he's going to go into wounded feminine because he's automatically going to need to be defensive and kind of like polarize that. However, if I went from wounded masculine into healthy feminine and I was like playful and fluid, and instead of being angry, I was like, I'm just feeling so angry right now and I'm not sure what to do with it. Can you help me? Like, that's healthy feminine, because all of a sudden I've shifted from fuck you to like, I'm feeling this. This is what I'm feeling. Do you think you could support me? Because that's actually what I really need. When I'm saying fuck you, what I really need is for you to sit me down and hold me. But I don't know how to say that because I'm busy protecting myself from somewhere I don't need to be protected from. And so that's where these things can get really twisted up, is that we block ourselves from our own ability to hear our needs when we're busy protecting. And so basically what you would do is anytime you're in one of these energies and you want to get to the others, you kind of cross cancel, whether it's doing it for yourself or asking your partner to do it for you. Like, this is what I need right now. I'm lost. I don't have my resources. This is what I need support with. And then once you move into that place, the other partner can genuinely rise with you, because those two things counteract each other. So whether you're in healthy or wounded, those things are going to bring out the opposite polar energy. So we got to kind of ask for what we need. Any thoughts on this? Any aha moments? I know it's a big conversation. And you guys, I learned so much about this every single time I talk about it, which I feel really grateful that I get the opportunity to be so surrounded by this work. Yeah, same as Sunny, the best. You guys, by the way, if you want these slides too, I can just let me know. I can send them to you. But most of you that were in TT, you have the chart. But just to keep in mind, you know, and don't make yourself wrong when you're in wounded. Like, we've all been wounded. We've all had a lot of stuff to process. It's how we keep ourselves safe. If we're in healthy feminine, does not bring out healthy masculine in our partner. No. Healthy feminine will bring forward healthy masculine. So yeah, it's just when you're down in the wounded space. So if you don't have the wherewithal to go up, you'll usually go across. And that's like, I mean, we've all had fights being in wounded masculine or feminine with the opposite. That shit sucks. Even with like like I've had so many wounded fights with my mom. And by the way, you guys, a lot of times when women, us as women, show up in wounded masculine, it's actually a mother wound. Like, we have a mother wound because we feel like we need to protect ourselves and we didn't have a model of healthy feminine. Like, my mom programmed in me, like, don't ever like rely on a man for anything. Like, they'll always leave, they'll always take from you. So the result of that story in my mind was never, I can collaborate with a partner. It was always, it's me against them and how do I make them stay? And so think about what kind of actions, thoughts, behaviors, and energy comes from that. But like, for me to not be awakened to that, I can't even understand this. Right. And once we identify our core wounds, like what sent us into that defensive place in the get-go, it gives us more permission to like love and adore and have so much compassion for our parents, because think about them being still stuck in that energy potentially. Right. Yeah, totally. Repeat behavior, 100%. Because we do what keeps us subconsciously safe, even if it's not manifesting the life we want. We'll stay to what's familiar. So if we're like, I stay safe by being aggressive or angry, or I stay safe by never touching base with my emotions, like if I don't feel it, it means it's not there, then whatever results of that is unhealthy behavior will continue. Don't date younger men, because my dad was 8 younger than her. Yeah, right? And here we are. you know? Okay, so let's continue. Here are just some general signs of wounded feminine energy in a man. And those of you dating, you probably see this every day. Flighty, like they don't make plans or they ghost you. Insecure, meaning like they show up and they're constantly looking at themselves or whatnot. That was like totally my ex. Emotionally chaotic, meaning like they can't necessarily explain where they're at. Indecisive, meaning, yeah, I don't know, I'll let you know when I'm done with this, right? Or unclear of direction, meaning they just don't know where they're going. So there's like wounded feminine energy there. Um, and a lot of these qualities manifested in my relationship when I was showing up as wounded masculine, right? With Chad, where I'd be like, so what are we doing? What time are you going to be there? What's happening? And it would always make me so angry. And I didn't understand that there's so much more at play than be on time or tell me what you want to do, right? Where do you want to eat tonight? Fuck me. I hate that question. It's the worst. Signs of a guarded masculine shield in a woman. Body is tense or rigid, meaning you always feel like you need to move or stretch because you can't release that from your body. So protectivism. Tendency to overgive, meaning I'm constantly giving more than I want to give. And this is a big one. I used to run around the house like cleaning up or like doing laundry, and I would have like full dialogue in my head, like, why can't he fucking do it? What the hell? I always have to show up and do this. Like, this sucks. Like, why am I the only one cleaning? Why am I the only one doing dishes? And I would have this like full blown conversation with myself. But it's like the resentment was coming from me because I was overgiving and not willing to have a full conversation. So I was just suffering internally while I was cleaning. So it was just ridiculous. And then I would show up and he'd be like, so what do you want to do later? And I'm like, fuck you. Like, why would you talk to me right now? And he's like, whoa, like, where did that come from? Because he's not in my head playing out this conversation of resentment, if you will. Insecure and constantly need reassurance. How can you show up in healthy masculine without enabling? Let's talk about that real quick before we continue. So here's our healthy masculine, Ash. Insecure and needing reassurance. Is that specifically in a certain context or is it across the board? Is it like need words of affirmation? Is it wants to make sure you're not talking to other people? Like what specifically? How does that manifest?
I guess, mm, yeah, I mean, a little bit of that, but not necessarily in like relationships like with my partner, but more in like friendships of like someone
Yeah,
constantly needing reassurance.
I think you just froze. Oh, you there, Ash?
Oh no. Is it my internet?
There you are. No, no, I got you. You said, I heard you say friends needing reassurance. Is that
Yeah,
right?
like friendships needing reassurance of like either about themselves, like physically beautiful, all of those things, or like that we're actually still friends or that I'm still around and like available for them. And it just is sometimes a lot where like if I
Yeah.
keep reassuring them, it makes me feel really burdened and like tired and like I just don't want to talk to them or deal because I'm just like I
Hmm.
can't keep giving if it's not coming back. And so I don't know how to show up in that healthy masculine while also like not enabling it to continue.
Yeah. Well, you don't really want to create polarity and attraction with your female friends. Like you don't want to be that for them because if you do, they're going to start relying on you. You want to teach your female friends, support them in of course, becoming more feminine. But part of this, if you do want to support them in raising their vibration, is you see responds without reacting and then in integrity. So while holding space is important and validating them is important, also part of integrity is to be honest with them like, hey, I think I've noticed very often you have asked me for this, this, and this. Are you aware that that might be asking me to overextend myself? And I might not be resourced to support you in that way, but I do want to be your girlfriend and I do want to connect with you and I do want to be vulnerable and loving with you. So maybe you move into healthy feminine. And it's hard for me to show up when you're asking so much of me, and that's moving into vulnerability and honesty and I support you, I love you, I see you, and I want to hold space for you without judgment, but like this energy might not work for me. And that's also creating healthy boundaries. I know it's tough, but
It's
yeah,
hard.
it's hard. It's really
Yeah,
hard.
it's my assignment.
Yep. When we're honest with ourselves, we can be honest to others. And Ash, I think too, like you not taking on other people's stuff is still something you're working on a little bit, around wanting to like make sure everyone else is okay. When realistically, like sometimes we have to emotionally show up to our relationships of like, while I want you to be okay, I also want you to grow. And me making you okay takes your ability to grow away. Okay. So more masculine shields in women, guarded, especially around masculine men. Mind is on overdrive, meaning you can't just settle and surrender. Disconnected from emotions or intuition, meaning indecisiveness, like, oh God, I don't know, I just don't know, I don't know. Difficult to receive. That's a big one. I know Jules mentioned that earlier in the chat of like being willing to let someone do something for you or let someone compliment you or gift you with things or be there for you or support you. Like, yes, I receive. Um, and by the way, I can speak from full experience of my own life is that I had such a hard time letting people do things for me. And now when people are like, hey, I'm coming over and doing this, I'm like, oh my God, I can't wait to see you. You know, like I receive fully, meaning I want to give people the opportunity to give because I know how good it feels. So I fully receive in that way. And then need to control, right? Like I need to decide how things are going to be. I have to be the one to do it because if I don't do it, it won't get done right. That whole language, right? That's a tough, uh, tough narrative to be in, but common, right? Oh, okay. Where are we here? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys some quick communication tips and you'll see how this manifests in real life, like action. If you're in a relationship, you never take me on dates anymore. Here's the way to communicate in a more feminine way. I miss you. It would make me feel really valued if you took me out more often. Are you able to do this? So I miss you is vulnerable. It would make me feel really valued is also, you know, vulnerable sharing. And then are you able to do this as an invitation? The feminine invites. Next, for those lovely online dating or like people you meet that want to like hang out and watch a movie, a lot of times my inclination in the past when I was single was like, I don't do that. Like, I don't do Netflix and chill. Like, what are you talking about? But really, what I wanted to say is my ideal experience in learning more about you would be something more romantic and formal, like dinner, invitation, right? Then, plus, you might be a psycho. That's kind of playful, right? Just like being silly. You might be a psycho. So, like, take me to dinner first. Would you be open to taking me on a date? So that's like a script you could give to someone that maybe wants to spend time with you, but you're inviting them to pursue you. Much more feminine energy there. Um, and those of us that are working on becoming more in our femininity is one, softening our language. So when you ask for something to be done, if your normal gut thing is like, hey, can you do this? It's, hey, I would love some support with this. Are you available to help me? Things like that, just softening it, not because we need to be anything different and put on a smile as women, right? Like, I think that sometimes that's our go to thought is like, this is how I need to show up. But really, softening means you're just putting more gentleness because it flows through you first. So I get to feel more loving about my requests. Doing things that bring joy, right? Like little fun things like, fuck this meeting or fuck this email. I'm going to go on a walk right now because that makes me happy. Getting into nature, dancing or physical movement, emoting, meaning like feel your feelings, go scream in a pillow, have some fun with it. Female relationships, right? Connecting with other women and being in women's circles. Dressing or surrounding self with lighter colors. You guys know for years, like my color is always black on black on black, but I find a lot different energy arises when I have colors. Self-care, face masks, bubble baths, massages, being of service, right? Selfless service, doing something to support someone else, maybe helping a parent with getting groceries or doing a favor for someone or showing up with flowers, just doing things that are giving, right? Like that is deeply feminine for us to offer that. And then creation, journaling, writing, art, music, things that we can like birth into existence that we're proud of, right? And let's pop over here to communicating in our healthy masculine. Those probably more so in relationships. Stop telling me what to do. I'm sure you've had this conversation with your woman before where they're like, clean up your clothes or put the toilet seat down or do the dishes. Don't tell me what to do, right? Like that was definitely my biggest friction with Chad, where I'm like, why can't you just do this? And it's like, don't tell me what to do. Always met with resistance. Here's the difference. I ask that you respect my boundaries and please do not try to control me. Like, A healthy woman will be like, okay, daddy, like whatever you say, I respect you, you know? And then you can have, by the way, follow-up conversation for the feminine is you can have a conversation when it's not charged of like, I so respect your boundaries and I never want to feel like I'm mothering you. And in order for me to feel safe in this environment, like the house needs to be clean and I really need your support with it. More gentle invitation. I just got done working out. Was gonna head home and shower. Let me know what your plan is. Don't you ever instead try this. My schedule will be clear and available at 6 p.m. I'd like to pick you up at 6:30 for dinner and a movie. How does that sound? Right? Assertive, directive, clear and concise. This is what we're doing. Get in the car. Like, take me. I'm in. And the example too that Chad's coach, who's again my very close friend, told me he was giving me an example of masculine feminine energy. And, I was like, yeah, we're supposed to go on a trip and we need to spend time together and we just haven't. And da da da. And he's like, yeah. So what you want him to do is not check with you and send you a spreadsheet. You want him to say, these are the dates, pack your bag. And I'm like, fuck, you're right. Like, that's what I want. I want you to say, like, block this weekend and tell me what to do. Right. And it's not because I don't know how to do it. It's because I don't want to have the burden of planning a vacation for us. I want you to do it. I want you to step up and be confident in your decision. Be confident about the hotel you picked. Be confident about where we're going. Be confident that the car is already handled and all I have to do is show up. That's what I want. And that makes me feel like a queen, you know? So masculine, leaning into more healthy masculine. And again, this is men or women, because by the way, you guys, I am all day masculine when I work. So when we're in teacher training, when we're in program, when we're in retreat, I'm masculine. That's how I present because I'm holding a container that's really safe for everyone to go into themselves. And I have to do that. Someone has to do that in the room. And that's what I'm really good at. I don't take that with me home, right? Like I take my pants off and I will put on my skirt energetically, if you will, where when I come home, I'm gentle and kind and loving and I don't have to take everyone's stuff on. But at work, I want to exercise these things on this list. That's how I show up personally. Set healthy boundaries and learn self values, meaning you have direction, you have a North Star, and you know exactly what aligns and doesn't align with you. Integrity and commitment to keeping your word, meaning I am going to make a promise and I'm going to show up to that promise. Having male relationships is really important because this is where you process your stuff, right? This is kind of where you go into it. And it's not to say you can't, again, be vulnerable with your partners. You should. In fact, it creates more depth of connection because you're in healthy feminine in that way. But having guys that can call you out on your shit, like you don't want your woman calling you on your shit. You want your guy friends to do that before it gets to your woman because there's a polarity again that happens that it then feels like it's like a parent-child relationship versus a man-woman relationship. So like go handle your stuff with your guys. How do you know when you're expecting too much of your partner? All that vacation stuff sounds great, but I feel like I have unrealistic expectations. Okay, so communicate, right? So we have a conversation of like maybe you're starting to become in relationship with someone, or let's say you're full blown in a relationship and a partnership and you want your partner to do things like that. Hey babe, surprise, Valentine's Day. I planned us an entire trip to Santa Barbara. Everything's handled and taken care of. You got the next one. Boom, set the standard, right? Or I'm so excited for this vacation. Why don't we plan this one together? But just so you know, in the future, like if I'll pay for half, I'm happy to cover it, but I would love for you to like totally take the helm on this one. Like, how do you feel about taking the helm on this one? Just like invitational language. Staying challenged mentally and physically, the masculine needs that. The masculine needs to be faced with something they get to overcome and they get to feel good about that. So for maybe any of you that are in partnership or any of the guys on here that might be kind of struggling through maybe some stuff where you're feeling any woundedness, like go challenge yourself. Go jump in the freaking ocean at 6 a.m. every day and do something that like shakes your nervous system up, that makes you feel like deeply expansive, because that changes your entire relationship to self and nervous system. Create activities that are purposeful and fulfilling for you, meaning do something that you feel like is contributing to a bigger picture, like long term, like something you're excited about, like building things. The masculine likes to build kingdoms and things like that. And it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be a leader, right? Like you could be a leader or you could not be interested in leadership, but building something, contributing to something that feels bigger than yourself is really important. And then, yeah, following things that build character and grit. So, something that again challenges you, but like makes you, I hate this phrase, toughens you up, because that's not where we're going, because healthy masculine is also very gentle, but something that is like sandpaper, something that digs you into yourself, like men, masculine, if you will, does really need that energy. So I'd love to offer a prompt and just see if any of you want to share. The prompt is, do you notice yourself running imbalanced, wounded, masculine or feminine, either in particular? And with curiosity, can you explore what may be at the root of this imbalance? So this stuff doesn't manifest out of nowhere. Like, if we said, this is how I'm showing up a lot of, if you go back maybe to some of your core relationships growing up, or maybe some experiences you had when you were younger, is there a way that that could have manifested from one of those experiences? And are you willing to kind of maybe look into that a little bit more? And how might you shift, or how might you look to shift into healthier, more balanced expression? And I'll just leave this up. If anyone wants to share, I'd love for you guys to open the space and just be vulnerable with anything you noticed from today that offers you this information about yourself. Hot seat. And you can even write this down too, or screenshot it for if you want to journal on this later. It's a really great prompt for that. And basically, it's kind of like, which wounded side do you run mostly and why? That's really what the question is asking. Yeah. Or maybe anyone have any examples of how maybe you show up in one or the other in a certain situation? Like when Chad and I have Discord, I sometimes will go into wounded feminine neediness now. Or with my mom, I go into wounded masculine all day. So easy to get me there. She could say one thing and I'm like, ah, I get upset.
I could say something.
Right?
Yeah, like for that bullet point list of all the guarded masculine, that was like spot on. Like the body tension, the trying to control things and tell people what to do, because if they don't do it the right way, then I might as well just do it. I live with 3 housemates, women, and they all have really feminine energy, and my energy is definitely more masculine. So it's hard to balance that and feel like, I don't know, like kind. I feel like I have a hard time being kind to them because I have this kind of assertive, kind of maybe rough or blunt edge. And it's so interesting because I have so much to learn from them, but it's definitely a challenge. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. That was really beautiful. And I so see you in that and understand, because it can be difficult when I think I would say you're probably more dominantly feminine, or that's like your more organic way of being. And it can be hard to let our guard down, when we're around people that, have that. And you being vulnerable, just sharing, like that's a way you're expressing your femininity right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? We got time for one more. Anything you noticed today? How it's shown up, manifesting? Okay, cool. Good stuff, guys. Thank you. So as you know, many of you know, we have our Woman Resilience 2-day local retreat in Santa Monica this weekend. We're going to be talking about all of this stuff and like 70% more, inclusive of that, as well as just like moving energy, building resilience, building strength, and how to show up really in grace. Because that's, for me, like I only teach the things that I go through myself, because that's the only place I can teach from. And for me, like feeling strong and okay and safe, but also like gentle and feminine, that's always really been my thing. Like I'm like, that's the place I have to teach from, because I know that I literally get my way 10 times faster when I'm gentle And I'm like, how is that possible? I thought I had to like tell people what to do and call the shots and be controlling. But yet when I'm gentle and when I'm loving and when I'm in my femininity, like I find people gravitate towards me so much more, and I get all of the love and the affection and the worthiness that I want to feel. Like I get that from just being what I'm naturally supposed to be. So I hope that these tools really supported you guys in learning more about yourself, learning more about this work. And I'm just grateful that I get time with you to do that. And if you have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I'm here. There's lots of resources within our community too. So I hope you guys have an amazing rest of your day. Thanks for joining. I love you all so much, and I'll see you soon.